We're out of steak. The system had an error. The chicken is a better fit for you. That meal isn't for him. What are you talking about?
I am in the correct seat.
Sir, that meal isn't for you. The words landed sharp. Too sharp for a place that sold calm as luxury. For a second, no one moved. The soft hum of the cabin. The faint clink of glass. The quiet shuffle of linen napkins. All of it seemed to pause around seat 1A. Daniel Carter looked up slowly. No anger, no confusion. Just stillness. He sat there in a worn gray hoodie, dark jeans, clean but clearly used sneakers. Nothing about him matched the polished world around him. Not the tailored suits. Not the leather briefcases. Not the quiet signals of money that filled the first-class cabin. Across the aisle, a man in a navy blazer cut into a perfectly cooked steak. Pink center. Steam rising. A glass of red wine beside it. Behind Daniel, someone laughed softly at a joke that didn't matter. Life in first class moved on. Except here. Victoria Hayes stood in the aisle. Posture straight. Chin slightly raised. She had been doing this for 25 years. Long enough to believe she could read people in seconds. And she had already read him. "I'm sorry," she said again. Voice smoother now, but colder. "We've had some inventory issues. I can offer you chicken instead." Daniel held her gaze. Not challenging. Not submissive. Just present. "I ordered the steak," he said quietly. His voice was even, controlled. It was confirmed when I booked. A small smile flickered across Victoria's lips. "Not warm, not kind. Professional. I understand that, sir. But sometimes adjustments have to be made." Behind her, Emily Parker froze near the galley entrance. She had checked the inventory herself. There were still steaks. More than enough. Her fingers tightened around the tray she was holding. She glanced toward Daniel, then toward Victoria. Then down at the floor. She knew this moment. She had seen it before. Different passenger. Same pattern. Different excuse. Same outcome. "Victoria," Emily said softly, stepping closer. "We actually have. That's enough." The interruption came fast, clean, final. Victoria didn't even look at her. "I need you to focus on beverage service in economy," she added, tone flat, like she was correcting a mistake that shouldn't have happened. Emily's mouth opened, then closed. She nodded, once, small, almost invisible, and walked away. Daniel watched the exchange, not surprised, not offended in the way most people would expect, just aware. Across the cabin, a woman lifted her phone slightly. Not obvious, not yet, but ready. Another passenger lowered his newspaper, just enough to see. Something had shifted. Victoria turned back to Daniel. "The chicken is very good," she said. "Most passengers actually prefer it." The sentence hung there. Carefully chosen, carefully aimed. Daniel exhaled slowly, almost silent. "Then I'll take the chicken," he said. No resistance, no scene. That seemed to satisfy her. Victoria nodded, the tension easing from her shoulders. Control restored, order maintained. She turned and walked down the aisle, heels soft against the carpet. Around them, the cabin breathed again. Conversations resumed, glasses lifted, forks moved. But something had changed, because a few people had seen it. Not just what was said, but what was meant. And Daniel Carter, sitting quietly in seat 1A, folded his hands on the table in front of him. He looked like a man who had just accepted a small inconvenience, but there was something in his eyes. Something steady. Something patient. Like a man who wasn't reacting to the moment, because he already understood how it would end. The cabin lights dimmed slightly as the aircraft leveled off, a soft chime signaling the start of full service. Victoria moved with precision, tray balanced, shoulders straight, smile calibrated. She stopped at row 2 first. "Mr. Whitman," she said warmly, placing a crystal flute in front of him. "Your Cabernet, just the way you like it." He smiled without looking up. Perfect. Across the aisle, another glass, another smile, another name remembered. Each interaction smooth, polished, personal, like a performance she had perfected over decades. Daniel watched it all, the rhythm, the pattern, who she paused for, who she lingered with, who she didn't. When she reached his row, she didn't stop. Not even a glance. She passed him as if the seat were empty. The movement was subtle, almost elegant, but deliberate. Behind him, a quiet shift. A woman in her 60s adjusted her glasses, slower than necessary, watching. A man 2 rows back leaned slightly into the aisle, pretending to stretch his legs. No one spoke, but more people were seeing it now. In the galley, Emily stood frozen again. Her hands hovered over 2 trays, one with crystal glasses, one with plastic. She looked toward Victoria, then toward Daniel. Her jaw tightened. She picked up the crystal tray, walked forward. "Sir," she said softly, stopping beside Daniel. "Would you like some champagne?" Her voice was careful, controlled, but there was something under it, a choice. Daniel looked up at her. For a brief second, their eyes met. He understood. "Thank you," he said. Simple, direct. Before Emily could set the glass down, Victoria's voice cut in from behind. Sharp, immediate. Emily. The name alone carried weight. Emily froze. Victoria stepped closer, slow, measured. "That tray is for passengers who requested it," she said, her tone low but firm. "Please follow service protocol." Emily swallowed. "He didn't get," I said, "follow protocol." No raised voice, no scene, just authority. Emily hesitated, then slowly lowered the tray. The crystal glass never touched Daniel's table. She turned, walked back to the galley. This time her shoulders were heavier. Victoria turned back to Daniel, that same professional smile, returning like nothing had happened. "Sir," she said, "we're currently managing limited inventory on premium beverages." A pause. "Just enough. I can offer you a complimentary option from our standard selection." She reached behind her, pulled out a plastic cup, already filled. The difference was obvious, not loud, but undeniable. She placed it gently on his tray table. "I hope this will be acceptable." Silence. The kind that presses on your chest. Daniel looked at the cup, then at her, then back at the cup. His fingers moved slowly. He picked it up. No shaking. No tension. Just control. "Thank you," he said. 2 words. Nothing more. Victoria nodded once, satisfied. She turned and continued down the aisle. Service resumed. Laughter returned. Silverware tapped softly against plates. But the air had changed. Not loud. Not explosive. Something quieter, heavier. Across the aisle, the older woman leaned toward the man beside her. "That's not right," she whispered. He didn't answer her. But he didn't disagree. 2 rows back, a phone lifted slightly higher. Now it was recording. Not hidden anymore. Documenting. In the galley, Emily pressed her palms against the counter. Her breath shallow. She stared at the untouched bottles of champagne stacked neatly behind glass. More than enough, always had been. She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. Something inside her had shifted. Back in seat 1A, Daniel took a small sip from the plastic cup. He didn't react, didn't wince, didn't show anything. But his gaze drifted slowly across the cabin, taking everything in. Every glance, every silence, every choice people were making in that moment. He set the cup down carefully, aligned it with the edge of the tray, precise, controlled. Like a man who wasn't just experiencing something, but recording it, storing it, piece by piece. Because what was happening here wasn't just about a meal or a drink. It was about something older, deeper, the quiet decision of who deserves dignity and who doesn't. And Daniel Carter sat there, calm as ever, letting it unfold, because he knew something no one else on that plane understood yet. This wasn't going to end in this cabin. It was just beginning. The seatbelt sign blinked off with a soft chime, and the cabin shifted again, people adjusting, stretching, settling deeper into comfort that now felt uneven. Daniel didn't move, his tray still in place, the plastic cup half full, touched since the last sip. Across the aisle, Mr. Whitman signaled for another pour. Victoria responded immediately, stepping in with practiced grace. "Another glass, sir?" "Please," he said, barely glancing at her. She poured slowly. Perfect angle, perfect timing. The deep red wine caught the light, swirling like something expensive and deserved. Daniel watched. Not the wine, her hands, steady, confident, certain, hands that knew exactly who to serve well and who not to. 2 rows back, a man in a charcoal jacket leaned forward slightly. He spoke quietly to the woman beside him. "You seeing this?" She nodded without looking at him. "I've been seeing it." Their voices stayed low, but not invisible. At the front, Emily moved again. This time slower, careful. She carried a tray of warm towels. She stopped at each seat, offered them evenly. Same gesture, same tone, until she reached Daniel. A pause, barely noticeable. But it was there. She held the towel out. Their eyes met again, this time longer. I'm sorry, she whispered. So soft it almost didn't exist. Daniel accepted the towel. Thank you, he said. No accusation, no comfort, just acknowledgement. Emily moved on, but something in her step had changed. Behind the galley curtain, she stopped. Her breath came faster now. Not panic, something else, pressure. The kind that builds when you realize silence has a cost. She turned, looked back into the cabin. Then at the storage compartment, still full, still untouched. The truth sitting there, waiting. Back in seat 1A, Daniel opened his laptop. Slow, quiet. The screen flickered on. Nothing flashy, no logo, no sign of status. Just an older device. Worn keys. Slight scratch near the corner. He began typing. Not fast, deliberate. Each word placed with care, observation, time, detail. Across from him, Laura Bennett lowered her legal pad. She had stopped pretending to read. Her eyes were sharp now, focused. She leaned slightly toward Dr. Reed beside her. That's not inventory management, she said under her breath, Doctor. Reed shook his head once. No, he replied, that's selection, a beat, then quieter, and it's going to cost someone. Up front, Victoria felt it, the shift, not obvious, but present, the kind of tension you learn to sense after years in the air. She glanced back, saw a few heads turned. Phones held just a little higher, nothing direct, nothing confrontational, but watching, always watching. Her jaw tightened. She adjusted her posture, lifted her chin, control. She still had control. She moved toward the galley, pulled the curtain aside. Emily. The name landed heavier this time. Emily turned. Yes, Victoria stepped closer. Her voice dropped. You need to stay in your lane, she said. This isn't your call. Emily didn't answer right away. She looked at Victoria, really looked. For the first time, not as a supervisor, but as a person. Then she glanced at the champagne bottles behind them. Then back at Victoria. We're not low, she said quietly. Victoria's expression didn't change, but her eyes hardened. That's not the point. A pause. Emily's fingers curled slightly at her sides. Then what is? Silence. Thick, uncomfortable. Victoria leaned in. Experience, she said. I know the difference between passengers. There it was, not loud, not shouted, but clear. Emily felt it land, felt what it meant. And for a second, she didn't know what to do with that. Back in the cabin, Daniel stopped typing. He closed the laptop halfway, not fully, just enough. His eyes lifted. Slow, measured. He looked down the aisle, past Victoria, past the galley, past the quiet tension building, like pressure in a sealed space. Then he leaned back in his seat, relaxed, calm, almost detached, like a man who had already seen this story before. Different place, same pattern, and every time it revealed something deeper than the moment itself. Not about service, not about policy, but about judgment, who makes it and who pays for it. The engines hummed steadily beneath it all, miles above the ground, where choices feel small, but consequences travel far. Daniel Carter sat still, waiting, because the line had already been crossed. And once that happens, things don't go back, they move forward. Whether people are ready or not, the meal service began with a quiet shift in energy, the kind that usually brought comfort, but now carried something heavier underneath. Plates moved, trays unfolded, silverware lined up with quiet precision. Victoria stepped into the aisle again, menu in hand, voice warm, controlled, practiced. Ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased to offer our dinner service. She started from the back this time. Row 4, then 3, each stop the same rhythm, a slight lean, a brief smile, a description delivered like a script she had memorized years ago. Our filet is prepared medium rare, finished with herb butter. Pause. The salmon is served with a citrus glaze. Another pause. Choices made, orders taken, everything smooth, everything clean. But people were watching now. Not the menu, not the food her. In row 3, Dr. Reed glanced up as she spoke. He listened, then nodded. I'll have the steak, he said. Victoria smiled. Excellent choice. She marked it down, moved on. Across this aisle, Laura Bennett didn't answer right away. She looked at Victoria longer than necessary, then asked calmly, how many steaks do you have available tonight? A small question, simple, but it landed. Victoria didn't miss a beat. Enough to meet demand, she said. Laura held her gaze, then nodded once. I'll take the steak. Victoria wrote it down, but something had shifted again. Tiny, but real. By the time she reached row 1, 8 passengers had ordered steak. 3 chose salmon. One vegetarian. Everything balanced. Everything accounted for. She stopped at Daniel. Same smile, same tone. Sir, for tonight's meal I'll take the steak, he said quietly. No hesitation, no change in tone, just a request. The same one everyone else made. Victoria's pen paused above her pad, just for a fraction of a second. Then she looked up. I'm sorry, sir. We've just run out. Silence. Not loud, but immediate. Across the aisle, Laura's pen stopped moving. Dr. Reed looked up again. Mr. Whitman frowned slightly. Daniel didn't react, not at first. He just looked at her. Long enough for the moment to stretch. How many were available? He asked. His voice stayed even, but sharper now. Victoria's smile tightened. I don't have that exact number in front of me. But you said there was enough, Laura added, her voice calm but clear. Victoria turned slightly, professional, composed. Demand changed. Dr. Reed leaned forward in his seat. That's interesting, he said, because you told me there was no issue. The air thickened. Conversation in the cabin slowed, not stopped, but quieter, more careful. Victoria felt it now, the attention, the weight. She straightened her shoulders. This happens sometimes, she said. Airline logistics can be unpredictable. Daniel tilted his head slightly. Then I'll take whatever steak you would have served the next passenger, he said. Another pause, longer this time. Victoria's jaw tightened. I'm afraid that's not possible. Why? One word. Clean. Direct. She didn't answer right away. Across the aisle, Laura set her pen down completely. Dr. Reed crossed his arms. A phone, 2 rows back, lifted higher, recording. Victoria took a small breath. I've already allocated the remaining meals, she said. To whom? Daniel asked. Now the question sat in the open. Not aggressive, but unavoidable. Victoria's smile faded just enough to reveal something underneath, control slipping. I can offer you the chicken, she said again. Same line, same tone, but weaker now. Daniel leaned back slowly. His hands rested on the armrests, relaxed, but grounded. I'm not asking for special treatment, he said. I'm asking for the same treatment. The words settled across the cabin. Simple, clear, hard to argue with. No one spoke. But people were listening now. Really listening. Victoria felt it, and something in her shifted. Not retreat, not yet, something closer to defiance. This is my cabin, she said, her voice dropped slightly. Firm, measured. I manage service based on experience. There it was again. Not hidden, not coded. Clear enough for anyone paying attention. Daniel's eyes didn't move. Experience with what? He asked. No one breathed. For a second. 2, 3, Victoria opened her mouth. Then stopped. Because now she could feel it. Not just the passengers, not just the cameras. Something else. Something bigger than this moment. And it was starting to close in. But she didn't step back. Not yet. Because once someone decides they're right, even when they're wrong, they don't turn easily. They double down. And that's when the real damage begins. Emily stepped out of the galley at the worst possible moment. The tray in her hands was steady. Too steady. 4 plates, 4 steaks, steam rising, butter melting slowly over the surface. No one missed it. Not the passengers, not the cameras, not Victoria. Her head snapped toward Emily, fast, sharp. Like something had just broken Emily. The name wasn't a call. It was a warning. Emily froze mid-step. Her eyes flicked from the tray to Victoria, then to Daniel. She understood immediately. Too late, the truth was already in the open. Dr. Reed leaned forward, his voice low but cutting through the silence. I thought you said you were out. No one looked at him. They didn't have to. Everyone was looking at the same thing. The stakes, real, visible, undeniable. Laura Bennett didn't speak. She just wrote something down. Slow, deliberate, a record. Victoria moved quickly now, closing the distance. Her voice dropped. These are for special allocation, she said. The words came out fast, rehearsed, but weaker than before. Emily blinked. That's not. Take them back. Victoria cut in. Harder this time. No mask left. Just control slipping through force. Emily didn't move. Her grip tightened slightly around the tray. Her breathing changed. Not fear anymore. Something else. Conflict. Because now it wasn't about guessing. It wasn't about suspicion. It was clear. And once something becomes clear, you can't pretend you didn't see it. Daniel watched the entire exchange. Still seated. Still calm. But his eyes had sharpened. You should let her answer, he said quietly. The sentence landed like a weight. Not loud, but it carried. Victoria turned toward him. Slow, measured, but there was tension now, visible in her jaw, in her shoulders. This doesn't concern you, she said. A mistake? Small but real, because now it did, to everyone. Dr. Reed spoke again. I think it concerns all of us. A murmur moved through the cabin, not loud but growing, agreement, recognition, a shift in sides. Victoria felt it. And for the first time, something like doubt flickered. Brief, then gone, replaced by something harder, defensive. Sir, she said, turning back to Daniel. You've already been offered a meal. And everyone else was offered a choice, he replied. Short, clean, unarguable. The tray in Emily's hands trembled slightly. Just enough. Butter slid across one of the steaks. A drop fell. Soft, onto the plate, the sound barely audible. But in that silence, it echoed. Victoria took a step closer. Emily, I'm giving you a direct instruction. Now it was official. Authority, command. Emily looked at her. Really looked this time, not as a subordinate, not as a trainee, but as someone deciding, right or wrong. I can't do that, she said. Soft but steady. The words changed everything. Victoria blinked once, like she hadn't heard correctly. What did you say? Emily swallowed, then held her ground. We're not out of steak, she said, and he ordered it. There was no hiding now, no gray space, just truth and consequences. Victoria's face tightened, not anger, not yet, something colder, calculation. She turned slowly, looked at the passengers, at the phones, at the attention she could no longer control. Then back to Daniel. You're creating a disruption, she said. Another mistake, because now it sounded like blame, not authority. Daniel leaned forward slightly. His hands rested on the edge of the tray, grounded, steady. I haven't raised my voice, he said. A beat. I haven't refused anything. Another beat. I've only asked to be treated the same. The words sat there, heavy, unavoidable. Laura stopped writing, looked up. That's not a disruption, she said quietly. That's a request. The cabin shifted again. Clearer now, defined, no more pretending. Victoria stood in the aisle, surrounded, not physically, but by something stronger. Evidence, witness, truth. And she knew it. You could see it in her eyes. The moment where control slips. Where the story you were telling stops holding together. But in stepping back, she chose something else. She straightened, lifted her chin, and doubled down. Because some people would rather lose everything than admit they were wrong. Victoria reached for the intercom phone without asking permission. The movement was quick, decisive, like someone choosing escalation over retreat. The cabin felt it instantly, a shift, sharp, uncomfortable. She pressed the button. Captain Collins, I need you in first class, she said. Her voice was controlled, but tighter now. We have a passenger situation. Passenger situation. The phrase landed wrong. Heads turned, more phones lifted. Emily stood frozen, still holding the tray. The stakes were still there, still real, still undeniable. Daniel didn't move. He just watched her, not surprised, not alarmed, just waiting. Seconds passed, then footsteps. Firm, measured. Captain Robert Collins stepped out from behind the cockpit door. Tall, mid-50s, decades in the air, a man used to command, used to order, used to control. He walked down the aisle slowly, eyes scanning the cabin, taking in the tension, the silence, the cameras. He stopped beside Victoria. What's going on? Victoria straightened slightly, grateful, relief, flickering under pressure. Captain, this passenger has been disruptive, she said, gesturing toward Daniel. He's questioning service procedures and refusing to comply. The words came fast, too fast, like something rehearsed under stress. Daniel looked up, calm, steady. That's not accurate, he said. No volume. No aggression, just correction. Captain Collins turned toward him. Sir, I ordered a meal that's available, Daniel said. I was told it wasn't, that's all. Short, clear, no extra. Behind him, Doctor. Reed spoke again. That's exactly what happened. Laura added quietly, and there are multiple witnesses. The captain's eyes shifted, from Daniel to Emily to the tray. He saw the stakes. His expression changed, just slightly. Enough. Victoria, he said, voice lower. Now, do we have steak available? A pause. Too long. Then we have limited allocation, she replied. Not a yes. Not a no. A dodge. Emily stepped forward. This time she didn't wait. Captain, we have 4 steaks left, she said. Her voice shook but didn't break. There was never a shortage. Silence hit hard. You could feel it. In the air, in the seats, in the way people stopped pretending not to listen. Victoria's head snapped toward her. Emily, but it was too late. The truth had a voice now, and it wasn't going away. Captain Collins looked between them, his jaw tightened. "Is that correct?" he asked. No one answered right away. Victoria didn't. She couldn't. And that silence said more than anything else. Daniel leaned back slowly, folded his hands again, still calm. But now the room was catching up to him, to what he already knew. Victoria made a decision. You could see it happen. The moment someone stops trying to explain and starts trying to control. "Captain," she said, voice firmer. "Now, this passenger has been argumentative. He's been questioning staff and creating discomfort for others. I believe we may have a security concern." That word. Security. It changed everything. Fast. The cabin stiffened. Even the air felt tighter. Captain Collins straightened. His training kicked in. "Sir," he said, turning to Daniel, "I need to ask you to remain seated and cooperative while we assess the situation." Daniel nodded once. "I've been seated the entire time," he said. Still calm, still controlled, but something in his eyes had changed. Sharper now, focused, because now it wasn't just about a meal. Or a lie. Now it was about something serious, something dangerous. The misuse of authority, the kind that ruins people. Dr. Reed leaned forward. "This is unnecessary," he said. "There is no security issue here." Laura added, "You're escalating a service complaint into something else. That's not appropriate." Victoria didn't respond. She couldn't. Because now she was committed. Too far in. Captain Collins glanced around the cabin. He saw the phones, the tension, the eyes watching him, waiting, measuring, and for the first time he hesitated. Just for a second. Then he spoke again. "Victoria, step aside," he said. Her eyes widened slightly, not expecting that, not used to that, but she stepped back, one step, then another, control slipping. The captain turned fully to Daniel. "Sir, I'm going to ask you directly," he said. "Have you made any threats or refused any crew instructions?" Daniel held his gaze. "No," he said, one word, clean, honest, and it landed. Because everyone already knew the answer. The cabin wasn't confused anymore. It was watching a line being crossed. And once that line is crossed, it doesn't just affect one person. It exposes everything. The captain's hand hovered near the cabin phone for a moment, then slowly dropped. That hesitation mattered. Everyone felt it. Because in that small pause, authority stopped being automatic and started being questioned. Daniel watched him closely. Not with anger, not with fear, but with something else. Assessment. Like he had seen this kind of moment before. Many times, Captain Collins exhaled quietly, then turned back toward Victoria. "Walk me through exactly what happened," he said. Not a command. A request. Careful. Measured. Victoria didn't answer right away. Her confidence wasn't gone, but it was cracking. You could see it in the way her shoulders tightened, in the way her eyes moved too quickly now. He was dissatisfied with his meal, she said, and became argumentative. "That's not what happened," Emily said softly. But this time, no one silenced her. The words stayed in the air, alive. The captain looked at her. "Go ahead," he said. Emily swallowed, then spoke. "He ordered steak," she said. "We had it. I checked." She told him we didn't. Simple. Clear. Truth doesn't need decoration. Victoria stepped forward again. "This is a misunderstanding." "No," Laura said, her voice cutting through with precision. "It's not." All eyes turned. She sat upright now, legal pad resting on her lap, pen still in hand. "Your statements have been inconsistent," she continued, "and now contradicted by your own staff." Every word landed clean, controlled, like she was building something, a case. Victoria's composure tightened further. "This isn't a courtroom," she said. Laura didn't blink. "No," she replied. "But it will be if this continues." The temperature in the cabin dropped. Not physically, but emotionally. Dr. Reed leaned forward again. "Captain," he said, "this is not a safety issue. This is a service issue being misrepresented." Captain Collins nodded slightly. He was listening now, really listening. Not reacting, not defending, processing, and that made all the difference. Daniel finally shifted in his seat, just slightly, then he spoke again. "I didn't raise my voice," he said. "I didn't refuse anything. I asked for what I paid for, a beat, and I was told it wasn't available, when it clearly was. Another beat. I'd like to understand why. No accusation, no aggression, just a question. the kind that forces truth into the open. Victoria didn't answer. She couldn't. Not without saying it, and once you say something like that, you can't take it back. Captain Collins looked at her again, longer this time, waiting, but the silence stretched. Too long, too obvious. Emily's hands were shaking now, still holding the tray, still holding the proof. Finally, the captain turned away from Victoria. That decision was quiet, but final. He looked at Daniel. "Sir," he said, "you're entitled to the meal you ordered. I'll make sure it's served. Simple, direct, correct. A small correction, but a necessary one." Daniel nodded once. "Thank you." No triumph, no satisfaction, just acknowledgement, because this was never about winning. It was about being treated right. But the moment didn't end there, because something bigger was building, something Victoria could feel now, something she couldn't control anymore. She stepped back again, further this time, her space shrinking, her authority fading. Not because someone took it, but because she lost it. Laura closed her notebook slowly. Dr. Reed leaned back. Emily exhaled for the first time in minutes. But Daniel didn't relax. Not fully, because he knew something the others didn't. This wasn't over, not even close. Because what just happened wasn't just a mistake. It was a pattern. And patterns don't disappear with one correction. They get exposed. And once they're exposed, they change everything. Daniel reached down calmly, picked up his phone, unlocked it, and began typing. Slow, deliberate, focused, not texting, not scrolling, writing, like someone documenting, like someone preparing. Because some moments don't end in the cabin. Some moments follow you all the way to the ground. And when they do, they don't just become stories. They become consequences. Daniel's fingers moved slowly across the screen. Not rushed, not emotional. Precise. Every word placed with intention. Across the aisle, Laura noticed. Her eyes narrowed slightly. That wasn't how most people reacted in moments like this. Most people vented, called someone, raised their voice. He didn't. He documented. Dr. Reed noticed it too. The calm, the control, the absence of ego. It didn't match the situation. It didn't match the way people usually respond when they're pushed. Something about it felt practiced. Victoria saw it last. But when she did, something cold slid into her chest. Because suddenly, he didn't look like someone who had just been denied a meal. He looked like someone building a case. Emily carefully lowered the tray onto the empty service cart. Her hands were still shaking, but her voice wasn't anymore. "Should I serve it now?" she asked quietly. Captain Collins nodded. Yes, one word. Final. Emily turned toward Daniel. She picked up one of the plates, walked it down the aisle. Every step felt louder than it should, like the whole cabin was listening. She stopped beside him, placed the plate gently on the table. The scent of butter and seared meat rose into the air, real, unavoidable. "I'm sorry," she said under her breath. Daniel looked up at her. Not long, just enough. "This wasn't your fault," he said. Simple, and something in Emily's shoulders loosened, just a little. Victoria stood near the galley, still, watching. But now she wasn't in control anymore. The shift was complete. Captain Collins stepped back slightly, gave the space room to breathe again. But the tension didn't disappear. It changed. From confrontation to consequence. Laura closed her notebook, but she didn't put it away. Not yet. "Captain," she said calmly for the record, multiple passengers witnessed conflicting statements from crew regarding available inventory. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse. But she documented, and that mattered. Dr. Reed added, and the situation was escalated as a security concern without justification. The captain nodded again. Slow, measured. "I understand," he said. But his eyes had changed. Less defensive, more aware. Because now this wasn't just about the cabin. This was bigger: reputation, liability, accountability. Daniel finished typing. Paused, read it again, then hit send. His phone vibrated almost immediately. Once, twice, 3 times calls. He ignored them. Laura noticed that too. Important people get called back, he didn't. That meant something. Victoria saw it, and now her breathing wasn't steady anymore. She stepped toward the captain, lowered her voice. "This is getting out of hand," she said. "We need to contain this. Contain, not fix, not acknowledge, control." Captain Collins didn't respond right away, because now he understood something critical. This wasn't about managing a passenger. This was about managing damage, and maybe he was already too late. From 2 rows back, a quiet voice spoke up. Mr. Whitman, older, measured. I've flown for 40 years, he said. I've never seen a situation like this handled this poorly. No anger, just disappointment, and somehow that hit harder. Victoria didn't reply. She couldn't, because now the room had shifted fully. Not just against her, but away from her. Daniel picked up his fork, cut into the steak, clean, precise pink center, exactly as described. He took one bite, chewed slowly, then set the fork down, not rushed, not distracted, because the food didn't matter, not anymore. He looked up again, at the captain, at Victoria, at the entire cabin, and for the first time there was something different in his expression. Not anger, not satisfaction, authority, quiet, controlled, unspoken, but unmistakable. Laura saw it, Dr. Reed saw it, even Emily felt it. Something was about to shift again. Bigger this time. Because this wasn't the end of a bad interaction. This was the beginning of something else. Something that would follow all of them, long after the plane touched the ground. Daniel reached into his bag, pulled out a worn leather folder, set it on the tray table. Didn't open it yet, just placed it there, in plain sight. And somehow that small action carried more weight than anything that had happened so far. The folder sat there for a few seconds before anyone spoke. It wasn't flashy, no gold edges, no bold logo, just worn leather, used real. Daniel rested his hand on top of it, not gripping, just there, grounded. Then he opened it, slowly, deliberately. The sound of the leather bending was soft, but in that quiet cabin it carried. Every eye followed, even Victoria's. Inside were documents, clean, organized, clipped together with precision. Daniel didn't rush. He took the first page, lifted it, turned it toward Captain Collins. You might want to read this, he said. No tension in his voice, no threat, just fact. The captain hesitated for a fraction of a second, then stepped forward, took the document. His eyes scanned the top line, then stopped. You could see it. That moment, the exact second something clicked. His posture changed, not dramatically, but enough. His shoulders straightened. His breathing slowed. He read the next line. Then the next. Silence, heavy now, different from before. Not confusion, not tension, recognition. Laura leaned slightly to the side, trying to catch a glimpse. Dr. Reed did the same. Victoria didn't move. She couldn't. Her eyes were locked on the captain's face, reading him, trying to understand what she had missed. The captain lowered the paper slowly, looked at Daniel. Really looked this time, not as a passenger, as something else, something higher. Is this current, he asked. Daniel nodded once. As of 3 days ago. Another pause. Short, but loaded. Captain Collins glanced back at the document, then at the folder, then at Daniel again. Something shifted fully now, clear, final. He handed the document back, carefully, with both hands. Respect, unmistakable. Victoria saw that, and her stomach dropped. Because that gesture, that one small act, told her everything she needed to know. What is this? She asked. Her voice wasn't sharp anymore. It was thinner, unsteady. No one answered her right away, because they were all watching the same thing, the shift in power. Daniel closed the folder halfway, didn't rush, didn't perform. He simply spoke. My name is Daniel Hayes, he said. A beat. I'm the majority owner of this airline. Silence. Total. Absolute. It didn't explode, it didn't echo, it just landed. And everything after it changed. Laura's pen slipped slightly in her fingers. Dr. Reed leaned back slowly. Mr. Whitman exhaled under his breath. Emily's eyes widened. Not dramatic, just human. Understanding. Victoria didn't move, didn't blink, because her mind was catching up, trying to, failing. You're what? She whispered. Daniel didn't repeat himself. He didn't need to. Captain Collins stepped back. Not away, but into position, a different one, professional. Formal. Sir, he said quietly. That word, sir, it sounded different now. Carried weight, recognition. Daniel nodded slightly. I wasn't planning to say anything, he continued. I wanted to see how things actually work up here. A pause. He let that sink in, without anyone adjusting behavior. Another pause. Longer. Because now it wasn't just about what happened. It was about why. Victoria's lips parted. But no words came, because there was nothing she could say that would undo this. Nothing she could explain that would make it better. Daniel looked at her, not angry, not cold, just clear. What happened today, he said, isn't about a meal. The words Coles came slower now. Measured. It's about judgment. Another beat, assumptions. Another. And how quickly those turn into decisions. Laura closed her notebook fully this time, because now the story wasn't unfolding. It had already been written. Dr. Reed folded his arms, quiet, watching. Emily stood still beside the cart, processing, growing, because moments like this change people. Victoria took a small step back, then another, like distance might fix something. But it didn't, because this wasn't about space, it was about consequence. Daniel closed the folder completely, set it down again. Same place, same calm. But now, it meant something entirely different, because the man they thought they understood was the one person in the room who had been understanding all of them. No one spoke for several seconds after that. The engines hummed beneath the silence, low, steady, distant. But inside the cabin, everything had changed. Victoria's hands were no longer still. You could see it now, the small tremor. The breath she couldn't fully control. She tried to say something, anything. Mr. Hazai? He raised his hand slightly, not aggressive. Just enough to stop her, and she stopped. Because now she understood. This wasn't a conversation she controlled anymore. Daniel looked at her, not with anger, not with humiliation, but with something heavier. Disappointment. You didn't know who I was, he said. A pause, and that's exactly the point. The words didn't hit fast. They sank, slow, deep, because they were true. He glanced around the cabin, at the passengers, at the witnesses, at the quiet accountability sitting in every seat. This isn't about me, he continued. It's about how you decide who deserves respect. No one interrupted. No one moved. Even the smallest sounds felt louder now. Emily stood straighter. Her fear was gone, replaced by something steadier. Understanding. Dr. Reed nodded slightly. Not to Daniel, to the moment. Laura rested her hands on her notebook, no longer writing, no longer observing, just present. Captain Collins stepped forward again. But this time his tone was different. Formal, grounded, Mr. Hayes, he said. I apologize for what happened on this flight. Daniel nodded once, acknowledgement. Nothing more, because apologies matter. But they don't erase actions. Victoria took another step back, then another, until her back nearly touched the galley wall. There was nowhere left to go, no explanation left to give. Daniel turned slightly toward her again. This job, he said, comes with authority. A beat, but authority without fairness turns into something else. Another beat, and people remember that. Short sentences. Clear, unavoidable. Victoria's eyes dropped. For the first time, she had nothing left to defend, because the truth was already out, and once truth stands in the open, it doesn't need argument. Daniel closed the folder again. Slow, deliberate, final. When we land, he said calmly, this will be reviewed fully. No threat, just fact. That was an off. Captain Collins nodded, understood, not just the words, the weight behind them. The aircraft began its descent. Subtle, at first, a slight shift in pressure, a quiet drop in altitude. But inside the cabin, something else was landing too. Reality, consequences, and something more important, perspective. Emily looked at Daniel one more time, not as a passenger, not as authority, but as a person who had shown restraint when he didn't have to. Strength without noise. That stays with people. Dr. Reed leaned back, exhaled. Laura closed her notebook completely. Mr. Whitman looked out the window, silent, thoughtful. Because everyone on that flight would remember this moment. Not the meal, not the argument, but the lesson. Respect is not earned by appearance. It is given by character, and when it's withheld, it reveals more about the giver than the one denied. The wheels touched the runway, a soft impact, then the long roll forward. Steady, grounded, just like the truth had become. Daniel stayed seated, calm, composed, exactly as he had been from the start. But now everyone saw him clearly, not because of his title, but because of how he chose to act when he had every reason not to. And that's the part that matters. If this story meant something to you, take a moment, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and in the comments, write 3 simple words that carry weight. Never stay silent.